at 2 in the morning. Anyway, our next speaker, nothing personal, not to put anybody else down, but my favorite person in Toastmasters, my favorite Toastmaster in the district, and she will be doing, sharing with her 40 years of creative table topics. And one of the things I will mention, I see Roxanne from 1348 is here, that we did at that meeting, and she wasn't going to bring up. Connie wasn't going to bring up, but that was they used the special effects involved a virtual background to have you idealize what your location, where you wanted to be, and where you would like to visit. And so that background was behind you when you did your, whether it was table topics or when you were speaking. So that was a special little touch. But not to put things off any longer, Connie has, I know, a lot of ideas to share. So our next speaker on creative table topics, who has done many presentations at district conferences and TLIs and that sort of thing, Connie Jameson. I don't know what you want to see, you or you want to see the audience.
Sliding on over. Am I unmuted? Yep.
You are.
Okay. Sliding on over. Tom had to twist and twist my arm to have me join Toastmasters. I think the primary reason was this thing I heard about called table topics. I thought, well, I can practice a speech over and over and over till I have it memorized, and then I could probably stand up and give it. But table topics, oh my goodness, that was so frightening to me. I soon learned, thanks to my wonderful club members of Club 815, my home club, Club 797, and other clubs, that, yeah, table topics can be a little bit fearful or frightening, but a whole lot of fun. We have more laughs, more fun times through table topics. We get to know one another through table topics. In fact, in case you didn't know, there is a club in our district, Spontaneous Speakers, that is totally table topics. Tom and I belonged to it for a while. It was lots of fun. We went back to visit because we didn't have to drive all the way there. And wow, we had a great time. You have a couple sessions of table topics, plus you have the opportunity, if you want to challenge yourself, to do a longer length table topic. You're given the topic, you have a minute or so to think about it, and then I believe it's either 3 to 5 or 4 to 6 minutes that you speak. Anyway, check them out. They're a specialty club, so they meet just once a month on a Sunday evening. Lots of fun, called Spontaneous Speakers. Also, I want to recognize that, in case some of you didn't know, that my husband, Tom Jameson, is the person responsible for table topics actually being a contest that we can all enjoy and be able to see more people than just those in our own local clubs. So there you go. I start with some tips and hints. We know that table topics is part of our meetings so that everybody gets a chance to talk. If you're not scheduled to be the Toastmaster, general evaluator, speaker, you still should speak each time. So you want to make sure, if you're table topics master, that you check out that schedule and you first of all call on the individuals who might not be able to speak otherwise. You want to let the guests know that they are certainly invited to speak, but reassure them that they don't have to. I found that probably about 50-50 as far as the percentage of guests that choose to participate in table topics. What we usually do is try to have a few Toastmasters speak first, so they get an idea what's going on. Don't have the guest be the first person called upon. Then make sure they don't get too difficult a topic. And what I like to do is say, if this topic doesn't appeal to you, you can talk on any one of the topics you heard spoken to before they are called upon. So that's a nice way to, I think, to handle the guest situation. I found that when Tom and I went to a gavel club, I enjoyed the situation so much. A Toastmaster, Susie Dorn, had a group of homeschooled students, and there was a fairly large group, but I found something happened. When they were called upon for table topics, after their initial fear, they would get up, and this is what would happen. Tell us about your favorite pet. They'd start strongly. My favorite pet was my dog I had when I was in elementary school. He was my best friend. I just loved him so much. He was my very favorite pet. So about 15 seconds or 20 seconds into the time period, they'd run out of steam. I saw this happen over and over, and so I said, well, next time when I visit, can I give a little presentation? Because I know they can go more than that 15 to 20 seconds that they were averaging. So what I did is I gave a presentation, and it was called, or at least I referred to it as, Go for the Green. Try to get to that green light or that green card. Some of the tips I gave them, I said, add details or specifics. You know, what was the name of your dog? How old were you when you had the dog? What type, what breed of dog was it, and so forth. Next, some stories or examples of what made that dog so special. What did you and your dog do? Another, if or on the other hand, let's say you talked about your dog and, oh my goodness, the green light's not there yet. So you could say, well, if you had asked me about the worst pet, it would be my sister's dog, that yippy little chihuahua that bugged us all the time. So you can say if, or on the other hand, if it had been about something else. Or you could use your imagination and just go crazy. Say, well, my favorite pet was that superhero dog. Yes, I could grab onto him and we'd go flying through the neighborhood, and let them know that, hey, when you give that response, it doesn't have to be factual. It doesn't have to be real. You can just have fun, get crazy. You could also use the who, what, when, where, why, where were you living? When did this happen? What made the dog so special, and so on. I found that after that, we went back a couple weeks later, they were all getting to the green. So if you have somebody, especially a new member, who is really struggling with trying to think of enough to say to get to the green light, these could be some tips that could be given. And you could tell them also, another good hint is to practice. You know, we all give our best responses on that drive home after the meeting. So think of what would be a better response to your own topic and the topics that were given to other people. Also, as I said, I learned that table topics could be lots of fun. Many of you know Becky Palmer. I think she was the first one who used this response. Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Monster. I would know right away, oh, she doesn't like that topic necessarily. Or a person might say, I'm so glad you asked me that. And you know, they're not. Or I've been thinking about that for ages and ages. And then we realize that we all have been in that situation where we're given a topic, oh my goodness, what am I going to say? And that's what makes it fun. We're all in this together. And I think once you realize that, you don't worry about how embarrassed you're going to be about your response. You learn to just have fun with table topics, see it as a way to grow and a way to learn more about one another. So that's what I wanted to share in that capacity. Now, it was mentioned to me that I might want to address table topics in the age of Zoom. Ay, 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 ay. As Tom mentioned, he's a dinosaur, I am also. But I have a big thank you for Rob Gunneman. After I knew I was going to do this, I attended a Saturday morning Toastmasters meeting, and lo and behold, Rob was the table topics master. The theme was celebrations, and this is how it was handled. He had a list of numbers, and I guess that corresponded to what the image or the picture or photo was, but he could just click on it and we would see a picture that looked as if it were a birthday celebration or people wearing these green shamrock hats or whatever. And the person would see it, and all of us would see it for a few seconds. And then that person would respond about what the celebration was and how they were going to celebrate it or what they were going to do or something from the past. So that was a good example for me. Of course, Sunny, just this very evening, shows us if we become more talented, how we can use this screen to share. But on the other hand, we had our newer member of our club be the table topics master, and we never saw him. He was one of those individuals that couldn't get on. I guess he didn't have a camera on his device or whatever. And so Kevin, who did a great job, presented his topics, and we never once saw him. So it can be done. So just check it out, practice, think about what can and cannot be done, what should and shouldn't be done with this format. Moving on, some of the procedures or formats. We have fun sometimes saying, you know what, you get to choose your topic. And of course, that will be choosing a number, or the card is upside down on the little table or whatever. Other times you might want to tailor it to the individual. You might actually want to say that topic and then call on somebody because you want them to shine, or you want the other members to find out about that person. There can be a grab bag format. People reach in, pull out their topic, or perhaps there's 2 or 3 bags and you pull out, okay, I'm going to pull out this. One idea is a famous person and the other is a job. And they have to talk about why this individual, maybe Superman, would make a great waiter, and talk about it in that way. Or maybe 3, taking a vacation, pull out, you're going to this location with this mode of transportation, and you either have this much money to spend or this person is your travel companion, and go from there. So the good old grab bags. Role playing, a continuing story. Somebody starts it. This is a great one if you're minus a table topics person. Somebody can start the story, and when they reach a certain time, the light or a little bell, then the next person continues on. Or if you need to fill in, you could do the round robin. I start a topic, I give my topic to Suzanne. When Suzanne finishes, she thinks of a topic and gives it to someone. That way, you're not burdening somebody with having to come up with topics for everybody. Most of us can think of at least one topic, and it can just be on any subject, but it helps fill in that evening or morning in case you don't have your person. Now, where to find ideas? We love playing games, but I found sometimes what's happening to me? Something's happening to me now.
No, I tried getting on my iPad at the same time.
Okay. Not really, but I'm still echoing. But
I'm mute. Yeah.
Ay. Tom and I love table games, but sometimes what we find is that people, once they try it out, then it gets burdensome as far as moving around the board and all, but they like those situations, those questions. So what I've done sometimes is gone to the thrift store, buy the game, and if we don't like playing it as a board game, then I get rid of the board. I keep the little cards. Here's one called Hear Me Out. Your straight A college senior wants to drop out and travel the world. What's your advice? So there's a number of cards that can be used for the topics. Or this one you might want to be a little cautious about because it's called controversy. And some of these are quite controversial, but for certain clubs, certain situations, maybe the debate club might enjoy something like this. And I chose some of the least controversial. Americans are too preoccupied with diet. Internet dating is more dangerous than, quote, conventional dating. Children in public schools should wear uniforms. Okay, so those are some of the least controversial or least the topics that could cause some concerns. Now, a way to handle these could be something like this. You're given the topic and you just talk about it. Here's another idea. You debate with yourself. Well, yeah, maybe Americans are too preoccupied with diet. I mean, everybody's going on a diet and then they lose some weight and then they fall off of it and they get back that weight and more and ding. On the other hand, you know, if we don't, so you maybe have a little bell and after 30 seconds or so, the bell's rung and then you have to take the other side and that's rung and you have to take the other side. So back and forth, that's an idea of something you could do with a topic such as that. Another place you could get ideas would be once in a while, somebody will give you one of these cute little calendars with and perhaps for each day, it has a little saying, a quotation or a saying of some kind, and you could keep this and come and use it. I have a little book of Chinese proverbs from older times, from olden times. Somebody for Christmas, I think it was, gave us these handy dandy, the 40 Conversations game. And I think they're more for kids maybe, but here are some sticks and they could reach in. Ice cream cones or snow cones? Would you rather lose the ability to read or lose the ability to speak? What job would you be absolutely terrible at? So these again are like the cards that we've probably seen for Toastmasters, from Toastmasters or other sources, but this is something that you could have people just reach in and pull out and be a source of topics. And some of those you might want to leave. If you have a club supplies, just leave them right there. I've also used calendars, tearing the pages off the calendar at the end of the year, and you could use those for scenes, either nature or some of them have funny sayings on them, and you could use those for your topics. You could have business cards, either find them or you could make business cards and then use those for a topic. For example, you're going for an interview for this job. You picked up the card and be interviewed. Well, how are you going to prepare for that? What are you going to say to get that job? That's your business. Advertise your business to us. Or what is it like a day in the life of somebody working for this company? So you could do that, or you could cut them out of a magazine or whatever. So businesses or jobs. You could take your Toastmaster magazine and have an article, read the headline, and have somebody share what they think that article's about. Maybe they've read it. If they haven't, well, just have it be a topic. And of course, you can recycle or steal from other clubs. We in Toastmasters do that. We welcome it. I'm going to give you an example of how you can take an idea and then just change it, move it up a notch or change it slightly. We had a person in our club, she worked at a thrift store, so she had a source of very inexpensive books. She brought some of those books to a meeting, and there was a wide range of sizes and shapes and topics. Here's what could be done. First, you could see the books. You could come up and select a book and tell about it, why you like this book. You could be told to either be the person who read the book or the person who wrote the book. Okay, next level could be the books are wrapped. They're in plain brown wrappers. So you choose a book and you don't get to choose what the title of the book is, but maybe it's a big book, a little book, flat book, whatever. Then you open it and find out what you chose and share about the book. Or even one more level, choose that wrap book, tell all about it, and then after you're finished telling about it, then you get to unwrap it and see what the book was. So you can use an idea and then just move on and change it a little bit. One of my favorite situations is to build topics around a special day. And if you look at your calendar, you'll see that in every month we have traditional special days, New Year's, so you could do something on resolutions, or Easter, 4th of July. But then if you want to, you can go and find those very unusual, strange days. National Hot Dog Day, and have a series of topics, mustard or ketchup. The puzzling question, why do buns come with a certain number of buns and hot dogs with a different number of hot dogs than the buns? And where's your favorite place to eat hot dogs? Should they be grilled or some other choice, and so on? So you can look online and find out all those unusual special days, I don't call them holidays, and build your topics around that. Another idea would be to use your club's anniversary. And you could have topics, and you could call on people you'd probably know by then, which ones might be able to tell some history of the club, and others to tell what plans they might have for the club for the future. Or somebody that's fairly new, what do you enjoy most from the club? What are you learning from the club? So the club anniversary. Around contest season, you could have other kinds of contests. You've entered, what do they call it when the cat, try to keep cats in line?
Herding cats.
Herding cats contest. You won it. How did you do that? Or a contest for any number of weightlifting or whatever you want to have. They could be actual contests or crazy contests. But you could do that around contest season. Elections. When it's around election time, you could campaign. You could campaign for yourself, or you could campaign for someone else. And maybe you'll surprise somebody in your club by saying, well, I want to urge you to vote for Tom Jameson for dog catcher. Woo. I know he'd be great, and campaign for the person. Or for a measure that you think that is either on the ballot or you figure should be on the ballot. For Chinese New Year, you could have proverbs. We had one lady in a club who actually made her own fortune cookies. That sounds like a lot of work. I think there are places you can go and buy them, but she made her own fortune cookies. So then you would reach in and pull out, open up your fortune cookie and respond to that. Words, phrases, quotations. You can give someone a word or a series of maybe 3 unconnected words, and they build a story around those words. One of our members liked to do painting. She had rocks with an inspirational word on them. And we would respond to the rock that we were given, and then we could take them home. Strange laws. There are sources where you can find some of these crazy laws that are on the books in different locations in the country, and you could respond to those. Headlines, maybe from your own local paper or National Enquirer, or maybe some of you think, hey, there's not much difference, especially nowadays. Quotations, you could ask who said it, why did they say it, what does it mean, and then maybe they don't know who said it until after they've responded, and then they find out the real answer. Song lyrics. You could give the beginning or part of the lyrics of the song and ask that person, how did you come to write this? What does it mean? Share the meaning of those words with us. Or if you're more technologically advanced than I, you could probably play just a little bit of that song, just a few seconds of the song, and then have the person be the person that wrote it. Objects. Some of the ways you can use objects, I mentioned about the books or magazines. You could have people wear a t-shirt to the meeting, and then they could tell about their t-shirt, or they could tell about somebody's other t-shirt with a saying on it. One of my favorites, I don't think Daryl is here, but Daryl Zeller, every time I see him when he's not dressed up, he's wearing a t-shirt. One of my favorites, teamwork. A lot of people doing what I say. So I thought that was a funny one that he had. I guess his family gets some t-shirts all the time. You could have people wear a hat, and they could either tell about their hat, they could give their hat to somebody else that they figure maybe it fits more appropriately, and that person would have to tell why they are wearing, and hopefully come up with a wide variety of hats. A greeting card. You could take a greeting card, and it could be after you have enjoyed your greeting card. Oh, there's somebody with a hat. You could take the greeting card, save the front of it, put it in an envelope, and the person opens it up and says, this is what the greeting card is. I'm sending it to someone for this reason or whatever, or I received this. Who did you receive it from? And what does it mean to you? Why did the person send it to you? Or you could tell more of what you would write inside that greeting card. So that's something you could save and use. You could have items, and around our house, we're such pack rats, we have all kinds of unusual antique items. So you could bring those out, and person has to tell all about them, and maybe they really don't know what it is, but they'll give it their best try. You can pretend that you invented this item and you're taking it in to have it patented, and tell us all about it. And it could be an item that they may not recognize, or it could be just some common item, but you're the person who first came up with that. One idea would be something like a clothespin. You're the inventor of the clothespin. Tell us all about that. Or what is your life like as a clothespin? Or new uses for that clothespin besides hanging clothes up, which not too many people do, but some I do. You could have an item given to you and you have to sell it or endorse it. Tell us all about it. You've received a gift. At one of the clubs we had at Christmas time, the Table Topics master had gifts. They were wrapped but no names on them. And so we selected a gift, opened it up, and told all about how wonderful this gift was or how we're going to use it or whatever. And then we had the gift to take home, which was nice. I looked for something new and I found an idea that I love. And this would be good for around Christmas, but you could do it anytime. You could have a selection. You could ask people to bring in a food item, a canned good or something in a box. So anyways, food items that are non-perishable. Then I reach in and I pull out, it could be a can of soup, it could be tomato sauce, it could be a package of rice, whatever it might be. And I have to tell about that dish that I'm going to prepare, that new recipe and how delicious it's going to be and so forth. And then at the end of the meeting, these could be saved and given to a food bank. So that might be something that your club would do maybe at Christmas time or any time. Getting to know you. This would be all those related to stages of your life. You could be giving advice to yourself at different ages. Superlatives, your first, whatever, your best, your worst. Also, you could have items in your life that tell about you. If your mirror could talk about you, what would it say? If your car were to talk about you, what would it say? If your pet told us about you, what would it say? So here you would be getting to know one another by asking questions about hobbies, interests, experiences, memories. Another is speaking opportunities. You're going to address a specified audience or event. You're delivering a toast, a roast, a proclamation, a campaign speech, or you're an expert, quote expert, to testify at a trial or a news conference of some kind. You could, if you wanted to go just a little bit step up, you could actually have certificates that could be used. You could print out world's greatest procrastinator. Okay, Susie, you're gonna use this and present it to George and give a talk about how George really deserves this special award. Interactions, this could be interviews, presenting and accepting awards, introductions, one way, maybe some meeting you don't have topics. I would introduce Tom. Tom would then choose somebody else in the room to introduce, and that person would introduce somebody else. So you'd see what you do know about the person, either factually or what they mean to you as far as a fellow member of your club, or perhaps what you would like to know about them. So this continuing on introduction of one another. When you are a table topics master, it's kind of nice to make it special. These are some of the ways that I've seen it done. If you're going to have, perhaps you're on a trial or you're having a debate or whatever, you could make a big point of starting with order in the court, order in the court. Or you could have a scroll, hear ye, we are presenting awards for whatever. One lady had questions about vacations or visiting different countries. She brought in a globe, and on the globe she had little tiny, probably Post-it notes on different places, and the globe would be spun, and then you take off your topic and read about your country or your location that you were supposed to talk about. One time the theme was flowers, and there was a big vase with artificial flowers, so you'd pull out a flower and there attached to it would be your topic. One gentleman, his daughter had some kind of a crystal ball, and he did a really fun job of using this for telling people about what was going to be happening to them. What do you call those? Not predictions, but anyway, he took this crystal ball and he'd say, I see that you are traveling to a faraway place, or I see that someone is coming into your life you haven't seen for 20 years. And so he had this little pretend crystal ball. Now he could have done it without, but that really made it a lot more fun. If it was something about travel, you could even make some paper airplanes and shoot one across the room to the next table topics presenter or person who's supposed to talk at table topics. Interactions, this is where you would be having contact between one person and another. Now what I've seen happen there is, okay, Tom, do you want to be pro or con for the issue? Tom would get to choose his side, but he doesn't know the issue yet. And so after he chooses, he's going to be for it or against it, then he finds out what that topic is. And then he could choose maybe somebody to be the other side if wanted. You could have two famous people meeting. So they would meet and you'd say, okay, you're Marilyn Monroe and you're whoever, and have this interaction. You could give some points that they should be asking one another. Another idea I saw was getting to know you. Each person, when we came in, we were asked before the meeting started or at the very start of the meeting to write down something that we felt very strongly about. Okay, I feel this very strongly that this is something that should be or should happen or whatever. And then they were all folded up, these little pieces of paper, and put into a basket. When it was your turn, you would reach into the basket, you would read this statement. Now, it'd be important for the tell everybody to write very clearly, and then you responded to it, but you also talked about who you felt made this statement. Who is that person that feels so strongly that we should, whatever it might be on that piece of paper. And then you find out afterward who it really was, whether you were correct or not. You could have a crisis hotline. So person is responding to a caller with a concern. Now you could do that in different ways. You could give another person the question to ask, or you could give the person a cell phone and they know who the person is because you've given it to them on a piece of paper, and they respond who they're talking to, yes. But we as an audience don't know who it is, and we try to guess who was that you were talking to, you were responding to. Either the person is seeking advice, or you're just like, oh, wow, I can't believe it, I'm talking to you. Oh, you're one of my heroes, or I'm sorry about what happened. But anyway, you don't find out who this person is until after the person has done some talking to the person over the pretend phone. Time travel is another. What's it going to be like 100 years from now? Transportation-wise, health-wise, entertainment-wise. You could be, or you could interview a historical figure, tell the rest of the story. Maybe we'll find out a little bit more about this famous person than we thought we knew. Have the person be a critic. Bring in books, movies, TV. One fun thing we did, my club at one point met in a room at a church, and it was used for daycare for the younger children. And they had all their artwork posted up around the room. So when it was your turn to do your topic, you were pointed to one of those, we didn't take them down from the wall, but pointed to one of those masterpieces there by the really young children, and you told all about it. What did this really show? What did it mean, the artist? And so that was a fun way to handle it, and it was right there in our room. Tabloid stories. You could be an advice columnist, a fashion critic. There's something that comes to the readers of the Wall Street Journal. It comes out maybe a couple times a year, and it's fancy pantsy ads for the high-end fashions. And some of those I cannot believe. They are atrocious. They are, I think, who would ever wear these in public? But I tore those out once, and then I would say, oh, you are getting kind of stuck in a rut as far as your apparel. And this is the new you that we're going to see. And I gave the person this picture of this fashion, and they would have to talk about how that's the new them wearing that kind of apparel. Use your imagination. What if you owned a goose that laid golden eggs? What if you were a character in a fairy tale, a superhero? If you were a vehicle, what would best be you? If you were a building, what building do you see yourself as? You could have some questions that are really quite challenging. For example, your boss has invited you over to have one of his wife's home-cooked meals. The casserole is awful. How do you respond? What do you say? Or your aunt has given you one of her treasured paintings. She wants you to have it now rather than later when she passes on. And this is not at all your style. You do not like this. It doesn't fit into your surroundings. What do you do? So you could set up some kind of challenging situations. Another one I heard, I don't remember what the response was, but how do you tell that new young couple that just moved in next door that maybe they should keep their blinds more tightly closed? So these
windows down. Too.
And the windows down. Set a scene or a scenario. Be the various people or objects. I remember somebody having us be out on the beach. You're the beach ball. So what is it like being the beach ball? You're the seagull. I think I was told to be the trash receptacle. And talking about, oh my goodness, why can't they ever? They can hit the beach ball where they want it to go, but they can't make it inside me. So, ooh, all this stuff's there. Or it gets kind of unpleasant by the end of the day, the baby's diapers and so on. So you could have people be inanimate objects as well. My life as a window washer. You could be a real estate. I saw someone do a real estate salesman trying to sell us homes in very weird locations. One of my good friends that used to do creative table topics with me, she was great for coming up with scenarios. We had one about the day the goldfish died. And she set the scene for this very rich lady. And others might have prized dogs and cats and so forth, but hers was her goldfish, Goldie. And oh my, she walked out, Goldie is floating upside down in the goldfish bowl. And then we had all the possible culprits. The nephew, the butler, all these different people were kind of spelled out, told a phrase or two about them, and we had to tell about, oh, it couldn't be me. I would never do such a thing. And then the detective at the end divulges who he or she thinks actually did that dastardly deed. You could have starter lines. What is that large truck coming up the driveway? And the person has to go on from there. Or I woke to a very unfamiliar sound. What's happening? And maybe they'd have a flying saucer out on the yard, or who knows. Let me see if I have any additional. Oh, another one that would be difficult to do now, but later on when we're meeting in person, two people respond. There's a situation set, and the first person talks about it giving verbal only. So you have to stand, just tell your story, no gestures, no body language, no facial expressions. The second person, no verbal, but instead they give all the gestures and the body language. So a great one for that would be Grandma's roller coaster ride. So you can imagine what would be said about Grandma going on her first roller coaster ride, one person telling the story, but the other reacting with all the gestures and body language. And let me see if I have any more. I guess, Tom, it's almost time. Shall we?
Yeah, you see if any, yeah, you can do what you were going to do.
Oh, here are a couple others. This is single words. I had people wear it around their neck. You don't be telling about fear when you had a fearful experience and so forth, but you are fear. You are that emotion, or you are joy, or you are greed. So in order to help the person remember that they're not supposed to talk about them in relation to it, but they're supposed to be that emotion, I had them wear, and also the audience would then remember this is what the person's supposed to be and talk about how that affects their lives. And the other would be just utterances. So I'd give the word and then the person would respond. For example, wow. So that's your topic. Wow. Or ouch. Ouch. Or oops. Oops. And then you build your response around that single utterance. Another would be trying to tell how to do something and not being able to use any props. Tell us, how do you bake a souffle? How do you change a baby's diaper? How do you repair or install some type of equipment, but you don't have anything to use, you just have to tell about it in words. So if anybody wants to give any responses to any of those that you heard, or get a couple topics, or we can just turn it back to Tom.
You have a function on there where you can raise your hand, I think. If you go to, I did want to have a couple of questions that I have for you that I'm not sure that you covered, and that is the two things that's like chalk on a chalkboard, putting your nails on a chalkboard, and that is when a person has giving a table topic to a brand new person, a guest that's in the room, and when someone says, I think I'll give you an easy one, it really bothers me when you do that, because then it makes it as though, well, this is an easy one, my gosh, I don't ever want to come back because I might get a hard one. And so that is something that's a little cautious for me. Another issue, and that is a table topic contest question. It's always bothered me when the question is so long, because it usually has to be read twice. So you might be careful if you're doing a table topics contest, don't make the topic so long that you have to read through like 2 or 3 sentences long. Would be really terrible. So make it 4, 5, 6, 8 words, not too long. I did want to share, for years when I was teaching, I had students who were not the greatest people in terms of academics, and never had any of them ever given a speech in public. But a table topic that worked well for them is they submitted 3 things to go in 3 little hats or 3 little boxes or whatever. They would submit the topics, and the topic was submit 3 things: an object, a mode of transportation, and a location. And so they might, for instance, and then you just draw out of a hat and that's your topic. And so I am going to Chicago with a violin on a skateboard. Tell that story. And of course, then we're going to get impossible stories like I'm going to Hawaii, on a bicycle. Well, people said, well, I'm riding around on an aircraft carrier and I have to ride the bicycle back and forth while it gets to Hawaii. But it seemed that they handled those well enough, knowing that they had submitted them and had fun with it. So just a topic. But do you want to go ahead and give some subjects?
Yeah, I had a couple more Tom reminded me of. I actually heard once where the table topics master called on the guests first before anybody had, and I think it was a first-time visitor. Now maybe they thought they were being kind, or I don't know, but make sure that the guest gets to hear a few. And then you, as Tom said, you don't say, well, here's an easy one for you, but you have maybe one that is toward the easier end, not too difficult. And then it's, of course, good to suggest if they don't like that one, that they could choose another topic.
And one of the things I don't think you mentioned was one that might be a whole table topics wrapped around a holiday event like Christmas. And one of my favorite ones to give to somebody was, you're the last Christmas tree on the Christmas tree lot that didn't get picked. How do you feel? And so or the ornament that's hanging on the tree that didn't get put up this year, whatever you want to make up, but something wrapped around a holiday, the whole event. So, but I think you did refer to that. So you're going to call on some people?
I don't know if anybody wants to do a topic.
I can't imagine there not being anybody that wants. So if you want to, under reactions, you could raise a hand and we'll see your, hopefully we'll see your, well, there's never many people that have a camera on, so we won't know. Just speak up, I guess. Unmute yourself and speak up that you're volunteering. Sunny.
Oh, Sunny, is that you?
No, that's not me.
Oh,
Well, I thought of another one. You could do the, what do you call them, fairy tales, or the little rhymes that we remember from childhood revisited. So you just give the first words and then they are not allowed to continue on as they maybe recall or don't recall. But for instance, Jack and Jill went up the hill. Now you can't say to fetch a pail of water. You have to make some other, why did Jack and Jill go up the hill? And you have to keep it G or PG rated. But anyway, you could start with the starting lines to some of those familiar nursery rhymes, and then
Or an ongoing story too, or it continues on. You know, just keep telling.
A couple more things to be careful about. I remember one time somebody asked a table topic about, what do you think about the road repairs that are being done someplace, and for somebody that doesn't live in that community, they wouldn't know anything about it. Or if we asked, especially when we're multicultural, I might ask about something from the past that others wouldn't know, going as far back as my age, or people that were in the news in the past. Just make sure that the person realizes if they're fairly new. If you're an old timer and you don't know, then you just use your table topics skills and talk about it anyway. But anyway, back to Tom and see if there's any last minute.
Okay, we are back here.